The first thing I noticed was the smell of smoke on her lips. Not cigarette smoke, something sharper. Like fireworks that had already exploded, like a decision that couldn't be undone. Her back hit the cold marble wall of the penthouse corridor as the building shuddered again. Somewhere below us, glass screamed and alarms started their endless, panicked chorus. Red emergency lights pulsed over her face, making her look like a ghost trapped between danger and desire. And my hand, God help me, was still on her waist. Not to hurt her, to keep her from running, to keep myself from doing something worse than running. Luca, she breathed, and the way she said my name felt like a blade sliding under my ribs. Not because it was sweet, because it wasn't. It sounded like a warning, like a prayer said too late. A door at the far end of the hall blew inward with a thunderous crack. Men shouted. Footsteps, heavy, urgent, pounded closer. I should have let her go. I should have turned, drawn my gun, and done what men like me always do when the world tries to take something from us. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned in, close enough to feel her trembling, close enough to catch the tiny hitch in her breathing that betrayed the fear she refused to show. Her eyes were wide, dark, bright with fury, and something softer she'd rather die than admit. You're not safe with me, I said, and it came out rough. Honest. Too honest. She laughed under her breath, not amused, not playful. Like pain had learned how to speak. I wasn't safe before you. That hit me harder than the explosion downstairs. Another tremor. The building groaned like it wanted to collapse and bury us both, as if the city itself was tired of our sins. Her fingers clutched the front of my shirt, not like a lover, but like someone hanging over an edge. Tell me the truth, she whispered. Did you do this? Did you bring them here? I opened my mouth. And in that half second, when words matter, when choices become destiny, I realized the truth would either save her or ruin her forever. Because this wasn't just about a rival family storming my building. This wasn't just about bullets and power and territory. This was about the one person who'd looked at me like I was nothing. And the way that nothing had become everything. If you're enjoying this story already, if you love romance with danger, desire with consequences, subscribe, turn on notifications, and hit like. Because what happens next isn't safe, and you won't want to miss a second. Now listen, because none of this started with an explosion. It started with a laugh. It started with me, arrogant, untouchable, surrounded by men who feared me, walking into a late-night restaurant like I owned the air in the room. It started with a waitress carrying a tray, eyes lowered, shoulders tight, trying to survive one more shift, until I decided to make her the joke. And it ended with one perfect kick, when she dropped me to the floor and changed the rules of my world. I didn't even know her name that night. Not until later. Not until I looked her up and realized fate had been wearing an apron. Her name was Elena Reyes, and she was about to ruin me in the most beautiful, terrifying way. The restaurant was the kind of place that stayed open because the city never slept, and neither did desperation. Neon buzzed in the windows. The coffee tasted like burnt confession. The booths were cracked vinyl, and the air held the stale perfume of people who didn't go home because home didn't feel safe. My men took up space like they were born to do it. Big shoulders, hard eyes, quiet weapons under jackets that cost more than most people's rent. And me? I walked in like a king who'd forgotten what it felt like to be human. I'd just finished a meeting that ended with threats disguised as handshakes. Rival families were getting restless. The police were getting louder. My uncle Vittorio kept telling me the only language the city respected was fear. So I came to that restaurant to breathe. To remind myself I still had control. Elena appeared with a tray, 2 plates, a basket of bread, a glass of water that trembled slightly as she walked. She didn't look at us. Not directly. Not because she didn't notice who we were. Because she did. People always did. And that's what made me cruel. She set the plates down. My man Marco, the kind of loyal that turns into dangerous if you ever stop feeding it, smirked at her. Careful, sweetheart. Wouldn't want you to spill something. She ignored him. Professional. Quiet. I should have respected that. Instead, I leaned back, lazy and smiling, and I said, loud enough for my men to hear, "Do they hire you for the food or for the view?" Marco laughed first, then the others. The sound filled the booth like smoke. Elena's hands froze for half a beat. Not fear, anger, tight and controlled. She set the last plate down with care. Then she looked at me, and for the first time that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not attraction, not even curiosity. It was challenge. Her eyes didn't beg. They didn't flatter. They judged. You done? She asked, voice calm, like she was asking if I wanted dessert. I tilted my head. Excuse me? I asked if you're done. Her gaze flicked to the men around me like she was measuring the weight of the room. Because I've got other tables. People who actually came to eat. Marco's smile vanished. My men shifted. And I, because arrogance is a drug, grinned wider. You've got courage, I said softly. That's adorable. Elena's jaw tightened. No. Courage is choosing to be kind when you don't have to. What you have is money and a room full of scared men. Silence snapped into place. The air got colder. I stood up, slow, letting her see the height difference, the power difference, the reality difference. Do you know who I am? Her eyes didn't drop. Her voice didn't shake. No, she said, but I know exactly what you are. I laughed again, sharp, dismissive, because it was easier than admitting her words landed. That was my mistake. Because Elena moved. 1 second she was standing there with her hands at her sides. The next, her tray was already sliding away, and her body turned like a storm contained in human skin. I didn't see the kick coming. I just felt it. A clean, precise impact, fast enough that my brain didn't name it until my body hit the floor. The world tilted. Neon smeared into darkness. And the last thing I heard before everything went black was Elena's voice, calm as a closing shift. Next time, laugh quieter. When I woke up, I was on the restaurant floor, my men furious, customers screaming, chairs knocked over. And Elena? Gone. But she left something behind. Not evidence. Not regret. A question that wouldn't stop burning. Who was she, and why did it feel like she just punched a hole through my soul? The next day, my jaw ached like pride bruised into bone. My men wanted revenge, not because they cared about the insult, but because my image was their shield. If I could be knocked down by a waitress, then the whole city would start believing I could be knocked down by anyone. Vittorio would have ordered her buried under concrete before breakfast. But I didn't. I told myself I wanted answers. That's what I called it. Truth was, I wanted to see her again. I wanted to stand in front of her and feel that heat in her eyes and prove to myself I was still the one in control. We found her by afternoon. Not in some glamorous hiding place. Not protected by anyone. A small apartment above a laundromat on the edge of the city, where the walls were thin and the streetlights flickered like they were tired. She opened the door with the chain still on, eyes sharp, hair pulled back, wearing the kind of plain clothes that make a person invisible if the world doesn't care to look. Then her gaze landed on me. And for the first time, she looked scared, not of me, of what me meant. You, she said, like the word tasted bitter. I stepped closer. You hit hard. She didn't smile. You deserved worse. I could have forced my way in, could have threatened, could have done what men like me do. Instead, I lowered my voice. Why did you do it? Elena's fingers tightened on the door. Because you think people like me exist for your entertainment. Because you laugh like I was a thing. And because I'm tired. A soft sound came from behind her, someone moving. A child? No, a boy. 13, maybe 14, peeking from the hallway with wide eyes. Elena shifted, protective. Go back inside, Nico. The boy hesitated, then vanished. I felt something twist in me. The kind of feeling I hated because it made me human. You have a kid, I said. He's my brother, she snapped. And you're not coming in. I'm not here to hurt him. The words came out before I could stop them. Elena stared like she didn't believe in miracles. Then why are you here? She asked. I could have said, because you embarrassed me. But I didn't. I said the truth that scared me, because I can't stop thinking about you. Her breath hitched. Tiny. Quick. Then she hardened again. That's not my problem. No, I agreed. It's mine. Sirens wailed in the distance, closer than they should have been. Elena's eyes flicked to the window. What did you do? I didn't call them, but the sound grew louder. Someone was coming. And when I looked down the stairwell, I saw uniforms at the bottom, moving fast. Police. Elena's face drained. They're here for me. I turned, scanning. Why? She swallowed. Because I don't get to punch powerful men and walk away. Because the city doesn't forgive girls like me. The chain on her door rattled as she yanked it off, panic bleeding into her voice for the first time. I can't go back. I can't. A shadow moved behind the police. Another group, not wearing uniforms. Men with sleek coats, quiet faces. Rival family. They weren't here to arrest her. They were here to take her. I grabbed Elena's wrist. She jerked away instinctively, but my grip was firm. Trust me, I said. She glared. I don't. You don't have to. I tightened my hold, pulling her toward the back stairwell. Just move. We ran down the narrow steps, my heartbeat loud in my ears, her breath ragged beside me. She didn't feel soft when I held her. She felt like steel wrapped in skin. Outside, rain slapped the pavement. Neon reflected in puddles like broken promises. We reached my car. She hesitated, eyes wild. If I get in, I'm not getting out. Yes, I said quietly. You are. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure if I meant she'd get out alive, or if I meant she'd never get out of my life. We hid in a safe house above my private club, a place that smelled like leather and old secrets. The windows were tinted, the doors reinforced, the kind of space built for men who expect betrayal. Elena stood in the center of it like she didn't belong, and like she refused to be swallowed by it. I offered her water. She didn't take it. I offered her space. She didn't trust it. She paced, arms crossed, eyes flicking to every corner like she was counting exits. You brought danger to my brother, she said finally, voice tight. I didn't bring it, I answered. I noticed it. She stopped. That's not better. No, it wasn't. I exhaled slow. Tell me the truth. Why are they after you? Elena's throat bobbed as she swallowed. Because my father borrowed money. The words came out like shame. He borrowed from the wrong people, she continued. He disappeared, and they decided the debt belonged to me. I felt my jaw clench. Who? She looked at me, and there was hatred there, but also fear. The Rossi crew. My blood cooled. Rossi wasn't just a rival. He was a butcher with a polished smile. The kind of man who enjoyed breaking people because it made him feel powerful. And Nico? I asked carefully, where is he? Elena's eyes shone, and for a second her mask cracked. He was supposed to be at school. A knock thundered at the door downstairs. My men moved instantly, guns drawn, faces grim. Elena's breath caught. They found us. I checked the cameras. Not Rossi. Worse. It was Marco, my right hand, standing with two men and a woman in a blazer behind them. Police, and Marco was talking like he belonged to both sides. My stomach dropped. Elena saw my face change. What? I stared at the screen, my voice low. Someone close to me is selling us out. She backed away, eyes hardening again. So this is what you do? You drag people into your world and then act surprised when it eats them. I turned to her. Elena, she flinched at her name on my tongue, like it was too intimate. If my brother is hurt, she said, voice trembling with rage, I will never forgive you. The front door exploded inward, with splintering, shouting filling the stairwell. I grabbed Elena's hand, pulling her toward the back. She resisted for half a second, then moved, because survival doesn't wait for trust. We slipped through a side corridor, down a service stairwell, into the alley behind the club. Cold air hit us. Sirens. Footsteps. Chaos. A van screeched to a stop at the end of the alley. Elena froze. The back doors opened. Nico stumbled out, hands tied, face bruised. Elena made a sound I'll never forget. Not a scream. Not a cry. A broken inhale, like her soul cracked. A man stepped out behind him, smiling. Rossi. He lifted a phone, waving it casually. Evening, Moretti. Bring the girl, or the boy gets worse. Elena surged forward, wild. I caught her around the waist, holding her back. Not like this, I murmured into her hair. She fought me, tears hot on her lashes. Let me go? Rossi chuckled. A waitress with teeth. I like her. My heart hammered. I could end this with blood. But blood is a door that only opens one way. I leaned close to Elena's ear. Look at me. She didn't. Elena. My voice tightened. If you run at them, Nico dies. If you listen to me, I can get him back. Her breathing shook. Then, slowly, she turned her face toward mine. And for the first time, she looked at me like I was a choice. Not a monster. Not a mistake. A possibility. If you betray me, she whispered, I'll kill you myself. I nodded once. Fair. If you're feeling the tension between us, if you love romances that are dangerous and impossible, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who can't resist a love on the edge. And comment. I'd risk it if you think Elena should take the risk, or run now, if you think she should escape before it's too late. I stepped into the rain, hands raised, voice calm. Rossi, let the boy go. This is between us. Rossi's smile widened. You don't get to decide what's between us anymore. Midnight turned the docks into a graveyard of metal and water. Fog rolled low, swallowing the lamps, turning everything into silhouettes and suspicion. The air smelled like salt, oil, and the kind of endings people don't write poems about. Elena walked beside me, hood up, jaw set. Every step looked controlled, but her hands shook when she thought I wasn't watching. "You said alone," she reminded me, voice flat. "I said I'd get your brother back," I corrected. She stopped under a broken light and turned to face me. Rain clung to her lashes. "You can't save people in your world without destroying something." I stared at her. I know. That was the truth I lived with. I motioned to the shadows. My men were there, far enough that Rossi wouldn't spot them, close enough to stop a massacre. Elena's eyes narrowed. "So you're lying." "I'm surviving," I said. "There's a difference." She looked away, swallowing something that might have been fear or hope. "If Nico dies, he won't," I said, and I meant it so hard it hurt. We reached the warehouse at the end of the pier. A single door stood open like a mouth. Inside, Rossi waited with a dozen men. Nico sat in a chair, face bruised, eyes wide but stubborn. Elena took one step toward him and Rossi lifted a hand, amused. He said. "First, the payment." Elena stiffened. Rossi's gaze slid over her like a hand. "You hit Moretti. You humiliated him. That has value. But tonight, you're going to pay with obedience." I felt something cold rise in me. Elena's voice turned sharp. "Go to hell." Rossi laughed. "Already there, sweetheart." I stepped forward, voice low and deadly. "Touch her, and you die." Rossi tilted his head, pretending to consider it. "You're protective. That's adorable." Elena glanced at me, confusion flickering. "Why do you care?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't fully know. Rossi waved a gun toward Nico. "One choice, Elena. You come with us, or your brother doesn't leave." Elena's breath broke. She took a step forward, shoulders tense, eyes shining. And I realized in that instant, watching her ready to sacrifice herself, that she was braver than any man I'd ever met. I moved faster than thought. My gun came up, but I didn't fire. I didn't want the easy path. I wanted the right one. I nodded once at my men. Lights flared, flashlights, smoke, shouting, chaos blooming like a storm. Rossi's men scrambled. Nico screamed. Elena lunged toward her brother. I grabbed her wrist and pulled her down behind a crate just as bullets tore through the air. I hated the sound of it. The way it made the world feel cheap. The way it stole choices. Elena pressed against my chest, trembling. "This is your world," she hissed. "This is what you bring." "I know," I said, voice tight. "And I'm trying to pull you out." She looked up, rain and dust on her cheeks, eyes furious. "Then stop lying to yourself. You can't love someone and keep them clean." That word, love, hung between us like a loaded weapon. I flinched. She saw it. Her mouth parted, surprise flickering across her face, as if she couldn't believe she'd said it, or that it mattered. We fought our way through the warehouse, my men pushing Rossi's crew back, not with elegance, but with urgency. No glory, no triumph, just survival. We reached Nico. Elena tore his bonds free, hands shaking. Nico looked at me, fear and hatred in equal parts. "You're the reason they came." Elena pulled him close. "We're leaving." Rossi's voice echoed through the chaos. "This isn't over, Moretti. You don't get happy endings." I shoved Elena and Nico toward the exit, and then Marco stepped into our path. Gun raised. Eyes cold. "Boss," he said softly. "Vittorio sends his regards. He says the girl is a liability." Elena froze. Nico whimpered. And my blood turned to ice. Marco wasn't just a soldier. He was family. Raised in the same shadows, taught the same rules, trained to believe loyalty was everything. But loyalty, I'd learned, is often just fear wearing a suit. His gun pointed at Elena like she was a disease. "She's not a mistake," I said, voice steady. Marco's eyes flicked to Nico. "The kid too?" Elena stepped in front of her brother without thinking. Protective, fierce. My chest tightened. Marco scoffed. "You're getting soft." I took a slow step closer, keeping my hands visible. Considerate. Calm. The way you approach a wild animal or a friend you don't want to kill. "Put the gun down," I said. Marco's jaw worked. "Vittorio said, I'm Vittorio's heir." I cut in. "Not his puppet." Marco's nostrils flared. "Then you're choosing her over us." Elena's breath hitched. She stared at me like she couldn't understand what was happening, like the world had tilted again. I looked at her, at the rain on her lashes, the stubborn set of her mouth, the fear she refused to wear like weakness. And I made the choice. I moved, fast, controlled, knocking Marco's gun aside. It fired into the ceiling, loud and useless. My men surged forward, disarming him, holding him back. Marco thrashed, furious. You're dead, Luca? Vittorio will. I know, I said quietly. Because the moment you defy a king, you become a target. We escaped into the night. Me, Elena, Nico, running through alleys and under bridges where the city's lights didn't reach. A safe house again. A different one. Smaller, colder. Less like a fortress and more like a place people hide when they're out of time. Nico fell asleep on the couch with a blanket around his shoulders. Exhaustion knocked him out harder than fear. Elena stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the rain. I stayed behind her, close but not touching. The silence between us was heavy. Finally she spoke, voice small and sharp. Why did you do that? I didn't pretend. Because I couldn't let him shoot you. That's not an answer. She turned, eyes bright. You don't even know me. I stepped closer. I know you don't beg. Her breath caught. I know you'd rather break than bow, I continued. I know you love your brother enough to walk into hell for him. Elena's face tightened, tears threatening but not falling. And you? What do I know about you? I hesitated. Then I gave her the truth that cost me. You know I was raised to believe people are either weapons or obstacles, I said. And you're the first person who ever made me feel like I could be something else. Elena stared at me. The room hummed with the quiet danger of closeness. I reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move. Her skin was warm under my knuckles. Her eyes flicked to my mouth. My heart punched against my ribs. Luca, she whispered, like my name had become something fragile. I leaned in, slow, controlled, waiting for her to stop me. She didn't. Our lips met like a confession. Not soft, not innocent. The kind of kiss that says, I know this is wrong, and I don't care. Then she pulled back, breath shaking, eyes dark with fear. This can't be real, she said. It is, I answered, voice rough. And that's the problem. A knock hit the door, 3 sharp taps. My men weren't here. No guards. No backup. Just me, just her. Just the consequences of love in a world built on punishment. I crossed to the door silently, gun ready. A slip of paper slid under it. 2 words, written in black ink. Kill her. Vittorio's order. I didn't show Elena the note. Not because I wanted to deceive her. Because I wanted one more minute where she could breathe. But the truth has a scent. It leaks into the air. People like Elena, people who survive, can smell it. You're tense, she said, watching me, voice quiet. What happened? I forced my expression flat. Nothing. She laughed once, bitter. That's your favorite word. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Elena, you need to understand something. Her eyes narrowed. Say it. I swallowed. My throat felt raw. My uncle wants you gone. Silence. Nico shifted in his sleep on the couch, unaware that his whole world was balancing on the edge of a knife. Elena's face went still, too still. Gone how? I didn't answer. She didn't need details. Her lips parted, breath shallow. So I was right. You can't love someone and keep them safe. I hated that she was right. I stepped closer anyway. I can keep you alive. And what do you lose? She asked, voice trembling. Your throne? Your men? Your family? I stared at her. Everything. Elena's eyes shimmered. Then why are you still here? Because when she kissed me, something inside me woke up. Because the thought of her dying made my chest feel like it was collapsing. Because for the first time, power didn't taste like victory. It tasted like ash. I'm still here, I said softly. Because I'd rather be ruined than be the man who let you die. Elena's throat bobbed as she swallowed. She looked away, blinking fast. Then she whispered, if you really mean that, prove it. So I did. I called in a favor from a man who owed me his life and hated my uncle more than he feared him. We staged a scene. A car burned on an empty road. A body bag, weighted, sealed, faceless. A rumor sent through the right mouths, carried by the right lies. Elena Reyes was dead. And Luca Moretti was back under Vittorio's control. The hardest part wasn't making it convincing. It was watching Elena listen as my men reported the news into their phones, hearing her own death spoken like an item on a list. She stood in the shadows of the safe house, arms wrapped around herself, face pale. You're erasing me, she whispered. I'm saving you, I replied. Elena looked at me, eyes sharp. And what about you, Luca? Who saves you? I didn't have an answer. That night, we packed fast. Nico woke up confused, frightened, but Elena soothed him with a gentle voice I couldn't understand. The tenderness in her made me ache. We moved to an old church safe house on the outskirts, stone walls, candles, dust, silence. It felt like a place where sins came to confess. Elena sat in a pew, hands clasped, staring at the altar like she was searching for permission to survive. I sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. I don't pray, I admitted. Elena's voice was quiet. Maybe you should. I glanced at her. Do you? She hesitated. I used to. What changed? She swallowed. Life. I stared at the stained glass, the colors faint in the moonlight. Life changes everyone. Elena turned to me, and her eyes softened for a heartbeat. Not everyone chooses to change back. My phone buzzed. A message from Marco. One line, Vittorio knows. My blood went cold. If you're feeling the danger closing in, if you love stories where love costs everything, hit like, subscribe, and share. And comment, "No safe love" if you think Luca and Elena can still make it, or too late if you think the past will swallow them whole. I looked at Elena. She read my face instantly. What? She demanded. I forced my voice steady. We have to move. Elena stood fast, anger flashing. Stop hiding things from me. I stepped closer, voice low. If I tell you everything, you'll die of fear before they even find us. She stared up at me, breathing hard. Then she whispered, maybe fear is better than being blind. Outside, in the distance, engines growled. Headlights swept over the church windows. And I knew the hunt had begun. We left the church before dawn, fog still clinging to the road like a warning. Elena held Nico close, her body angled like a shield. I drove with both hands on the wheel, eyes scanning mirrors, heart pounding like it wanted out. We couldn't go to my usual safe houses. Vittorio would know. We couldn't go to the police. They'd cage Elena, use Nico as leverage, and call it justice. So we went to the only place Vittorio hated, because he couldn't own it. A woman named Sister Agatha ran a shelter on the south side. She didn't ask questions. She didn't take money. She took broken people and gave them soup and a bed. She took one look at me, expensive coat, hard eyes, and said, "You don't belong here." Elena stepped forward. "We need help." Sister Agatha's gaze softened at Elena's voice. Then her eyes flicked to Nico. "Come in." The shelter smelled like laundry soap and tired hope. Elena exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Nico sat with other kids, slowly unclenching. And Elena? She stood beside me in the hallway, and in the quiet, her anger returned. "You lied to me," she hissed. I didn't deny it. "I protected you." That's what men say when they want control. Her eyes flashed. "Is that what this is, Luca? Control?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "If I wanted control, you wouldn't be standing here yelling at me." Elena's breath hitched. I reached for her hand, slow. "I'm trying to keep you alive." She stared at my fingers, then at my face. Her voice dropped. "And what do you want in return?" I held her gaze. "You." The word landed heavy. Elena swallowed. "That's not fair." "No," I agreed, voice rough. "It's not." For a moment, the world got quiet enough that I could hear her breathing, feel the heat between us. I wanted to kiss her again. I wanted to pull her into me and pretend the city didn't exist. But then footsteps approached, firm, deliberate. A man in a suit appeared at the end of the hall. Not one of mine. Not Vittorio's. A cop. Detective Shaw. His eyes found me instantly. He didn't look surprised. He looked satisfied. "Luca Moretti," he said, calm as a judge. "We need to talk." Elena stiffened. "Who is that?" I kept my face blank. "Trouble." Shaw glanced at Elena and Nico down the hall. "Nice place to hide a civilian. Makes you look almost human." I stepped forward, blocking his view. "What do you want?" Shaw smiled thinly. "Your uncle. Vittorio. We want him. But you're the key." Elena's voice cut in, sharp. "You're using us." Shaw's gaze flicked to her. "I'm using him. You're collateral." Elena's fists clenched. I felt rage rise, not because he threatened me, but because he spoke to her like she was expendable. Shaw leaned closer, voice low. "Here's the deal, Moretti. Give me Vittorio, and I keep the girl and the kid out of prison. Refuse, and I let your enemies find you first." My jaw tightened. Elena looked at me, eyes searching. "Luca, what is he talking about?" I stared at Shaw, then at Elena, and realized every path forward was soaked in consequence. If I betrayed Vittorio, my world would burn. If I didn't, Elena would. And Nico would grow up learning that hope is a lie. 24 hours sounds like time. In my world, it's a countdown to tragedy. Elena barely slept. Nico stayed close to her like he could sense deeming shadows. I sat in a chair in the shelter's back office, staring at Shaw's card until the numbers blurred. Elena finally came in, shutting the door behind her. She didn't shout. That scared me more. What did you do? She asked softly. I met her eyes. I was born into this. That's not what I asked. Her voice trembled. How many people have you hurt, Luca? The question hit like a fist. I could have lied. I could have softened it. But she deserved truth. Too many, I said, voice low. And I've hated myself for pretending it was normal. Elena's eyes shone. Then stop. I gave a bitter laugh. It's not that simple. It is, she insisted. It's just terrifying. She stepped closer. If you don't change, you die in that world. Maybe not today, but eventually. I stared at her, heart pounding. And if I change, Elena's voice softened. Then you might live, but you'll lose everything you built. I swallowed. Everything I built is poison. Elena reached for my hand, hesitated, then took it. Her fingers were warm. Real. You saved my brother, she whispered. Now save yourself. The words hit me like grace. Before I could respond, the shelter's front door burst open. Shouting. Panic. A woman screamed. I surged to my feet, pulling Elena behind me instinctively. Men stormed in, Rossi's crew. They'd found us. Elena's breath caught. No. Rossi stepped into the hallway with that polished smile, clapping slowly. What a sweet little sanctuary. Shame if someone ruined it. I felt my gun heavy at my side. I didn't want bullets in a shelter. I didn't want children screaming because of me. Rossi's gaze landed on Elena. Come with me, or I start hurting people who don't deserve it. Elena stepped forward, fierce. Don't you touch them. Rossi grinned. Then cooperate. I reached for her wrist. Elena. She turned to me, eyes blazing. If we fight here, innocent people bleed. She was right. Rossi's men grabbed her before I could move. Elena twisted, resisting, but they held her tight. Nico ran toward her, crying out. Elena shouted, Stay back. Rossi leaned close to my face. Meet me at the penthouse tonight, Moretti. Alone. Bring Shaw's card too. I hear you're thinking about betrayal. My blood turned cold. He knew. Rossi winked. And don't worry. I'll keep your waitress entertained. Elena's eyes locked on mine as they dragged her away. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She mouthed 2 words. Don't stop. And then she was gone. I went to the penthouse at night because Rossi wanted theater. He wanted me to feel powerless in my own kingdom. The elevators smelled like polished steel and old money. My men weren't with me. I left them behind on purpose. No shootout. No chaos. Not tonight. Tonight was about choice. Rossi waited in the main room, city lights behind him like a crown. Elena stood near the window, hands bound, face bruised, eyes alive with fury. When she saw me, something softened in her expression for half a heartbeat. Then she hardened again, like she refused to give me hope for free. Rossi clapped. Look at you, Moretti, coming alone. Maybe you're not as arrogant as you used to be. I walked forward slowly. Let her go. Rossi laughed. Always straight to the point. He gestured to Elena. She's special, you know. She doesn't break. Elena lifted her chin. You don't scare me. Rossi leaned close, whispering something I couldn't hear. Elena flinched, just slightly, then spit at his shoes. I felt pride and terror at the same time. Rossi wiped his shoe with a cloth, smiling. I'll enjoy teaching you manners. I stepped closer, voice deadly calm. Touch her again, and I swear you won't leave this room. Rossi raised his hands, amused. But you're alone. And I'm not. Men emerged from shadows, too many. Rossi lifted Shaw's card between his fingers. Here's what happens. You give me Vittorio's locations, his routes, his contacts, and I give you the girl and the boy. You refuse, and Elena dies slowly while you watch. Elena's eyes widened. Luca, don't. I looked at her, heart pounding. She shook her head slightly, pleading without words. Don't become what they want. Don't betray your soul. Rossi smiled. Choose. I closed my eyes for a moment. Then I opened them. And I made the choice that broke my crown. I'll give you Vittorio, I said. Elena's breath caught like a sob. Rossi's eyebrows lifted, impressed. Wow. Love really is a disease. Elena whispered, voice shaking. Luca, no. I stepped closer to her, lowering my voice. This is how I save you. Her eyes searched mine. And who saves you? I didn't answer. Because the truth was, no one. Rossi snapped his fingers. Elena's bonds were cut. She stumbled, and I caught her, hands on her shoulders, steadying her. For 1 second, her body leaned into mine. Then she pulled back, eyes wet. You're throwing yourself into fire. I've lived in fire my whole life, I murmured. I'm just choosing what burns. Rossi laughed. Send me the details by morning. I turned to leave with Elena, and that's when my phone buzzed. A video message. From Marco. It showed Vittorio, alive, calm, sitting in a chair with a man kneeling in front of him. Detective Shaw. Blood on his lip. Vittorio smiled into the camera. Hello, nephew, he said softly. I hear you've been talking to cops. My stomach dropped. Vittorio's hand rested on Shaw's shoulder like a pet. Bring the girl to me by sunrise, or I'll start ending people you care about. Starting with the boy. Elena's face drained. Rossi's smile faded. Because even he understood what that meant. Vittorio wasn't just angry. He was ready to destroy everything. By sunrise, the city felt like a trap closing. Vittorio had Shaw. Rossi had leverage. My men were divided. And Elena was the only thing in the world that felt real. We reminded Nico he had to stay hidden. Sister Agatha promised she'd protect him, and for the first time in my life, I believed in someone I couldn't pay. Elena stood with me outside the shelter, the sky pale and bruised with mourning. You're going to die, she said, voice raw. I looked at her. Maybe. Her eyes burned. And you're acting like it's noble. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. It's not noble. It's necessary. Elena's hands curled into fists. There has to be another way. There is, I said. But it requires me to become something I've never been. Her breath caught. What? I held her gaze. A witness. We used Shaw's phone because Vittorio loved trophies and Shaw's phone was full of them. Recordings, messages, proof. Not details of violence. Proof of corruption, of bribery, of the way Vittorio owned the city's veins. We didn't plan a massacre. We planned a collapse. Vittorio wanted a meeting. So we gave him one. A place he thought was his, my penthouse. He arrived with men, with confidence, with that calm smile that says, I raised you. I own you. Elena stood beside me, posture straight, eyes sharp. Vittorio's gaze fell on her, and he chuckled. So this is the waitress. Elena didn't move. So this is the coward. Vittorio laughed, genuinely amused. I like her spirit. Shame she won't keep it. He turned to me, eyes narrowing. You embarrassed our name, Luca. You chose a girl over blood. I stepped forward. No, I chose to stop pretending blood makes cruelty holy. Vittorio's smile faded. You're getting dramatic. I felt Elena's hand brush mine, light, steady, and I spoke the truth I'd been running from my whole life. I'm done, I said. Vittorio's eyes hardened. Then you die. His men raised guns. And the building shuddered, just like in the beginning. Because outside, sirens screamed closer, louder, filling the air with inevitability. Vittorio frowned. What is this? I met his gaze. Consequences. The doors burst open. Not Rossi. Not my men. Police. Federal agents. Shaw's colleagues. Because even if Shaw was compromised, the evidence wasn't. Vittorio's face twisted with rage. You traitor. I exhaled, voice quiet. I'm not a traitor. I'm a man who finally understands the cost of being loyal to evil. Vittorio lunged toward Elena, grabbing her arm. I moved without thinking, pulling her behind me. Vittorio's eyes locked on mine, pure hatred. You think she'll love you when you're nothing? Elena's voice cut through, shaking but fierce. He was nothing when he laughed at me. And he's everything now because he learned. Vittorio froze, shocked. For 1 second, I saw doubt flicker. Then it turned into rage. Agents swarmed him. He fought, shouting, but the world didn't listen anymore. The crown was falling, and I was falling with it. Elena turned to me as they cuffed Vittorio, tears spilling now that she didn't have to be steel anymore. What happens to you? I swallowed. I don't know. Elena stepped closer, hands trembling, and pressed her forehead to mine. The city roared outside. Inside, it was quiet enough to hear her whisper. I hate you, she breathed. For making me care. I let out a broken laugh. Fair. Then she kissed me. Fast, fierce, like a promise she refused to put into words. And when she pulled back, her eyes were shining. I'm not safe with you, she whispered. I nodded. I know. She swallowed. But I don't want safe. I want real. My chest ached. Agents approached, ready to take me too, because redemption still has a price. Elena grabbed my hand one last time. Luca. I looked at her, memorizing her face like prayer. Tell me, she whispered, voice trembling. Was it worth it? I held her gaze. And I answered with the only truth that mattered. Yes. Months later, the city still breathed. It still lied. It still tempted men into darkness. But something had changed. Not the whole world. Just my world. I sat behind thick glass in a visitation room that smelled like disinfectant and regret. A uniform itched at my collar. My hands were clean for the first time in years, and it felt strange, like my skin didn't recognize peace. When Elena walked in, my heart did the same stupid, beautiful thing it always did. It tried to run toward her. She sat down slowly, eyes scanning my face as if she was searching for the man she'd met and the man I was trying to become. Nico came in behind her, taller now, eyes steadier. He didn't smile, but he didn't hate me the way he used to. That felt like mercy. Elena lifted the phone receiver on her side of the glass. I lifted mine. For a second, we just stared. Then she said softly, "You look terrible." I laughed under my breath. "You look alive." Her eyes softened. "We are." A pause. Then she whispered, "I bought the restaurant." I blinked. "The one where you laughed," she finished, voice steady. "Where I kicked you. Where it started." Her gaze didn't flinch. I renamed it. Nico picked the name. "What is it?" Elena's mouth curved, faint and sad. "Second chances." My throat tightened. "You built something clean," I said. Elena nodded. "I built something real." She leaned closer to the glass, voice dropping. "And I did it because you showed me something I didn't want to believe, that monsters can choose not to be monsters." I swallowed hard. "I don't deserve you." Elena's eyes shone. "I'm not a reward, Luca." I exhaled. "I know." A long silence stretched between us, full of everything we couldn't touch. Then Elena asked the question that still haunted me. "If you could go back," she whispered, "would you do it again?" I stared at her, at the woman who'd refused to bow, at the love that had cost me my crown, at the life I'd finally stopped pretending was normal. "Yes," I said, even knowing the price. Elena's lips trembled. "Then maybe one day, when you're free." A guard's hand touched my shoulder. "Time." Elena stood quickly, pressing her palm to the glass. I pressed mine against it from my side. Two worlds separated by consequences, still reaching. Before she turned away, she whispered, "Don't let the old you win." And I whispered back, "I won't." Now let me ask you, because this is the question that matters. If you were Elena, would you stay? Or would you run? Drop your answer in the comments. Would you stay or would you flee? And if this romance and danger made your heart race, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. There are new stories every day, and the next one might be even more dangerous than this. Until the next episode, stay safe out there. And remember, love isn't always soft. Sometimes, it's the thing that saves you from yourself.